Hello and welcome, everyone. Have you ever felt like you're facing an insurmountable challenge? A seemingly unstoppable force? A situation where the odds are so stacked against you that victory seems not just improbable, but impossible? We all have. We've all had our own personal Goliaths. Today, we're re-diving into one of the most enduring and powerful stories ever told. The epic confrontation of David versus Goliath. This isn't just a tale from a book. It's a blueprint for understanding resilience, courage, and the true nature of power. So, get ready to change your perspective on what it means to be the underdog. The feeling of being overwhelmed is universal. It's that pit in your stomach when you're about to give a presentation to a room full of experts, or the dread you feel when a new business rival with unlimited resources enters your market. It's the exhaustion of fighting a long-term illness, or the quiet despair of facing down a mountain of debt. In these moments, we all feel small, inadequate, and outmatched. The world presents us with a figure that is physically, financially, or socially more powerful than we could ever hope to be. We see their armor, their resources, and their intimidating stature, and we are told, implicitly or explicitly, that this is a fight we cannot win. But what if everything we believe about power is wrong? What if the very things that make a Goliath so strong are also the sources of their greatest vulnerability? What if the underdog's true advantage lies not in matching the opponent's strength, but in redefining the terms of the battle entirely? What if the secret to overcoming a seemingly impossible challenge is not to fight with a sword and shield, but with a sling and a stone? That is the question at the heart of the story of David and Goliath. It is a story that has transcended time and culture precisely because it speaks to this fundamental human experience. It's not just a religious narrative. It's a parable for every entrepreneur, every artist, every innovator, and every single person who has ever faced an obstacle that seemed too big to overcome. So let's not just recount the story. Let's immerse ourselves in it and discover the profound truths it holds. Our story begins in a place of great tension and despair, the Valley of Elah, a strategic choke point in ancient Israel. The year is approximately 1025 BCE. On one side of the valley, perched on a hill, is the army of Israel, led by King Saul. On the other side, an equally imposing force, the Philistine army. The two nations have been locked in conflict for generations, and this valley has become the stage for their latest standoff. But this isn't a conventional war. For 40 agonizing days, the armies have not engaged in a full-scale battle. Instead, they have been held in a state of suspended terror, all because of one man. His name is Goliath of Gath. Goliath is no ordinary man. The biblical text describes him in astonishing detail, painting a picture of a warrior of almost mythical proportions. His height is given as 6 cubits and a span, a measurement that, while debated by scholars, is most commonly understood to be over 9 feet tall. To put that in perspective, he would have towered over every man on the battlefield, including King Saul, who is himself famously described as being a head taller than anyone else in Israel. Imagine a man who is the height of a small room, whose presence alone is enough to cast a shadow over an entire army. But his size is only the beginning of his terror. Goliath is encased in an impenetrable fortress of bronze. His coat of scale armor weighs a colossal 5,000 shekels, approximately 125 pounds of weight that a modern person would struggle to even lift, let alone fight in. He wears bronze greaves on his legs and a bronze helmet on his head. His primary weapon is a massive spear, the head of which alone weighs 600 shekels of iron, around 15 pounds. The shaft of his spear is said to be like a weaver's beam, a piece of machinery used for looms, emphasizing its immense size and unwieldy nature. To top it all off, a man, a professional shield bearer, walks in front of him, carrying a huge shield, providing an additional layer of defense. Goliath is not just a soldier. He is a siege engine on 2 legs. a force of nature designed to inspire utter and complete fear. And that is precisely what he does. For 40 days, in the early morning and late afternoon, he marches into the valley and bellows his challenge, his voice echoing across the hills. He proposes a duel. Choose a man for yourselves, and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us. The psychological toll of this is immense. For 40 days, the Israelite soldiers are forced to listen to this blasphemous taunt. Their honor is challenged, their God is mocked, and their very existence is at stake. And for 40 days, they are too terrified to do anything about it. King Saul, the leader who should have been a source of strength, is himself consumed by fear. The entire army is demoralized, paralyzed by the sheer impossibility of the challenge. The reward for victory is great wealth, royalty, and freedom from taxes, but no amount of riches can outweigh the fear of a 9-foot-tall giant. This is the scene into which our hero David enters. He is not a soldier. He is the youngest of 8 brothers, sent by his father Jesse to the battlefield simply to bring food to his older siblings. David's world is one of quiet solitude. He is a shepherd, a boy whose days are spent in the fields of Bethlehem, caring for his flock. He is a boy who has a deep personal relationship with his God, forged in the quiet moments of watching over his sheep. As David arrives, he is immediately struck by the strange silence, punctuated only by Goliath's thunderous voice. He hears the giant's taunts and sees the fear on the faces of the soldiers, including his own brothers. He is bewildered. He cannot comprehend why an army of God's chosen people would be so terrified by an uncircumcised Philistine who dares to defy their Lord. His perspective is fundamentally different. While the soldiers see a physical monster, David sees an enemy who has insulted his God. This isn't just a military problem. It's a spiritual one. His older brothers, particularly Eliab, are not pleased to see him. They accuse him of arrogance and idleness, assuming he has only come to see the battle out of curiosity. "Why have you come down here?" Eliab says, "And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your insolence and your evil heart, for you have come down in order to see the battle." This is a classic moment of dismissal. Those who are trapped in the conventional way of thinking cannot understand someone who sees a problem from a completely different angle. But David's conviction is unshakable. His questions and his unwavering spirit eventually reach the ears of King Saul. When David is brought before the king, Saul sees only a youth, and his skepticism is palpable. He tells David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are a youth, and he a man of war from his youth." Saul is operating within a rigid, traditional framework. The only way to fight a soldier is to be a soldier. David doesn't fit the mold. But David's response is a masterpiece of calm confidence, rooted not in bravado, but in his past experiences. He tells the king about how he, as a shepherd, has faced and killed both lions and bears to protect his flock. He explains that the same God who delivered him from these wild beasts will also deliver him from the hand of this Philistine. This is a crucial detail. David isn't presenting a theory. He's sharing a tested, proven track record. His courage isn't a sudden, reckless impulse. It's a practiced discipline, a muscle he has been strengthening his entire life. Saul, perhaps out of sheer, final desperation, agrees. He offers David his own royal armor, a heavy bronze suit, a helmet, and a sword. It's the traditional equipment of a king and a warrior. But David tries it on and finds it to be too big, too cumbersome, too heavy. He cannot move in it. He hasn't trained with it. It is not his. In a moment of incredible self-awareness, David rejects the armor. He knows he must fight with the tools he knows and trusts. He must fight on his own terms. David chooses to fight with what he has always used, his shepherd's staff, a leather sling, and 5 smooth stones he carefully selected from a nearby stream. These are not the weapons of a conventional warrior. They are the tools of an outsider, of a disruptor. In ancient times, the sling was a sophisticated, high-velocity projectile weapon. In the hands of a skilled slinger, a stone could be hurled at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. He was not going into this fight unprepared. He was simply using a different, and in this case, superior, technology. The battle is a spectacle of contrasts, a visual representation of the clash between old power and new. Goliath, the colossus of strength and brute force, marched forward, his shield-bearer announcing his presence. He sees David, a young boy, unarmed by military standards, approaching with a stick and a bag of stones, and he is filled with contempt. He yells, "Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks?" and curses David by his gods. He is so focused on the conventional fight he has been trained for that he completely underestimates his opponent. But David is not intimidated. He stands his ground and delivers one of the most powerful speeches in history. "You come to me with a sword and with a spear and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands." This is not just bravado. It's a statement of faith and a declaration of his purpose. He has framed the duel not as a contest between himself and a giant, but as a contest between God and a pagan idol. The two close the distance. David is not afraid. He doesn't wait for Goliath to get close enough to use his massive sword or spear. He runs toward the giant. This is an act of aggression, a stunning reversal of expectations. Goliath is a static, slow-moving target. David, unburdened by armor, is fast and agile. As he closes in, he reaches into his shepherd's bag, pulls out one of the smooth stones, places it in his sling, and hurls it with all his might. The stone flies through the air, a tiny, unassuming projectile with an immense amount of force. It strikes the giant squarely on his forehead, a tiny, unprotected spot just above his bronze helmet. The impact is so powerful that it embeds the stone in his skull, causing a concussion so severe that he immediately falls forward. The mighty Goliath, who had stood for 40 days defying an army, falls face first to the ground with a thunderous crash. The Philistine army is stunned, and the Israelites let out a roar. David, still a youth with no sword of his own, runs up to the fallen giant, takes Goliath's own massive sword from its sheath, and uses it to behead him, finalizing the impossible victory. The Philistines, seeing their champion dead, turn and flee in terror, and the Israelites pursue them, securing a decisive victory. This is the story we all know. It's a powerful narrative about an unlikely hero, but what makes it so impactful is what lies beneath the surface. It's not just about a boy and a giant. It's a metaphor for innovation, perspective, and the power of unconventional thinking. The traditional view is that David's victory was a miracle, and in many ways, it was. But it was also a strategic triumph. Let's look at it from a different angle. Goliath's strengths were also his weaknesses. His armor, while protective, was incredibly heavy and limited his mobility. He was slow, cumbersome, and built for a specific kind of warfare close-quarters combat. His spear and sword were formidable in a face-to-face duel, but they were useless at a distance. He was a close-quarters fighter, a tank. He was an unstoppable force in a traditional mano-a-mano duel. He was built to be a walking fortress, but his very design made him a slow, predictable target. David, on the other hand, was everything Goliath wasn't. He was fast, agile, and unburdened by heavy armor. His weapon, a sling, wasn't a sword or a spear. It was a long-range, high-velocity projectile weapon. David didn't fight Goliath on Goliath's terms. He didn't engage in a close-quarters brawl. He changed the rules of the game. He turned a duel into a ranged attack. He used his unique skills and tools to exploit his opponent's greatest vulnerability, the lack of protection on his face. The story teaches us that what seems like a disadvantage from one perspective can be a significant advantage from another. It's a lesson that has echoed through history, from military strategy to business and even personal development. This is the hidden power of the David versus Goliath narrative. It's a story about misdirection, about leveraging asymmetric advantages. The world saw a boy with a stick. Goliath saw a weak, defenseless target. But what they missed was the powerful, disruptive potential of the slinger. The story teaches us that what seems like a disadvantage from one perspective can be a significant advantage from another. It's a lesson that has echoed through history, from military strategy to business and even personal development. So, how does this ancient story apply to our lives today? We all face our own Goliaths. Maybe it's a financial struggle that seems impossible to overcome. Perhaps it's a chronic illness that saps your energy and your hope. Maybe it's a career challenge, a new project at work that feels too big to tackle, or the pressure of starting a new business from scratch. It could be a personal fear, a habit you can't break, or a voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough. The first lesson from David is that size doesn't equal power. What appears formidable on the outside may have hidden vulnerabilities. Our Goliaths often appear massive and invincible. They are designed to intimidate us, to make us believe that resistance is futile. But like Goliath's heavy armor, their size and perceived strength can also be their greatest weakness. The bigger the problem, the more complex and rigid it often is. This rigidity can be a point of leverage for those who are agile, adaptable, and willing to think outside the box. The second lesson is to embrace your unique strengths. David didn't try to be a soldier. He didn't try to wield a sword he wasn't familiar with. He didn't wear armor that would have slowed him down. He used what he had, what he knew, and what made him uniquely effective. He was a shepherd, a slinger, a man of faith. These were his tools. We all have our own unique set of skills, experiences, and perspectives. When we face our own Goliaths, the temptation is to conform, to use the accepted or conventional methods. But the true path to victory often lies in leveraging what makes you different. Don't abandon your sling for a sword that's too heavy for you. Your unconventional approach might be your greatest asset. The third lesson is about perspective. David saw what others didn't. While the Israelite army saw an unbeatable foe, David saw an opportunity. He saw a target. He saw a man who was defying his God. His perspective was fueled by his faith, yes, but also by a clear-eyed analysis of the situation. He wasn't blinded by Goliath's intimidating presence. He was able to see past the armor and the size to the fundamental vulnerability. When you face your Goliath, try to change your perspective. Don't just see the size of the problem. Look for its flaws. Look for its weaknesses. Ask yourself, where is the unprotected forehead on this giant? The final lesson is about courage, not just faith. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to act in spite of it. David was not fearless. He was a young boy facing a giant. He must have been terrified. But his faith and his conviction were greater than his fear. He moved forward, not recklessly, but with purpose. He didn't wait for a miracle. He took action to create one. His story reminds us that we have the power to challenge the seemingly unchangeable, to stand up to the overwhelming, and to take a decisive step forward, even when our knees are shaking. So I want you to think about this. What is your Goliath? Is it a fear of public speaking? Is it the pressure of a looming deadline? Is it a toxic relationship you're afraid to leave? Is it the feeling that you're not smart enough, or strong enough, or good enough? I challenge you to sit with that question. Identify your Goliath. And once you've named it, I want you to start thinking like David. Don't try to fight your Goliath on its own terms. Don't let its size paralyze you. Instead, look for its vulnerabilities. What is your sling? What are the unique tools and skills you have at your disposal? How can you use your agility and unconventional thinking to turn the tables? David's story isn't just about a boy winning a fight. It's about the power of the human spirit to overcome what seems impossible. It's a reminder that the biggest battles are often won not through brute force, but through intelligence, adaptability, and an unwavering belief in oneself and one's purpose. The legend of David versus Goliath is more than a historical account. It's a timeless metaphor. It teaches us that the world is filled with Goliaths, but it's also filled with David's people who are willing to stand up, to take a risk, and to fight on their own terms. It's a story of hope, a story of empowerment, and a story that reminds us that no matter how big the giant, you are not powerless. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope this story has given you a new perspective and the courage to face your own giants, not with a sense of dread, but with a sense of purpose and a sling full of stones. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a little bit of inspiration. Until next time, stay strong, stay courageous, and remember that your greatest strength might be your ability to be different. Goodbye.